Yes, everybody, thank you for joining us. My name is Stephen Howson. This is Stretford Paddock, and we are going to be talking today about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Joining me on today's podcast, we have got Laurie from The Athletic, and we have got Adam from his bedroom. What's happening, our kids?
Good.
All right.
I've copied you, Steve, because I've not done my hair, so I've gone for the cap on backwards.
It's the future. People are either going bald or they're wearing hats, and there's probably not much in between, or they're going full for the mod look like Adam is.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I shaved Jaden the other day. Has anyone seen The Act? There's like a little series called The Act.
No.
Right, it's quite interesting. Well, anyway, my son looks like the girl that starred in The Act at the moment with his shaved head. So maybe look that up. Looks like a fucking right dick. Right, and so Solskjaer, pretty much just over a year in permanent charge of Manchester United. We've seen some ups, we've seen some downs, we've seen some transfers, we've seen some wins, we've seen some losses, and we've seen some sales and that as well. And we've seen some debuts. So we have a bit of a conversation today, a little bit about what we're doing or what we think Solskjaer's doing on a few topics. Those topics being transfers, tactics, youth, results, and then how do you feel about the future a little bit for him? Laurie, let's come to you first. Transfers with Ole. Is it as straightforward as it seems like it might be in terms like pretty much successful?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say less than 10 out of 10 if you actually want to rate him. I mean, 5 transfers, each one of them has done good things for United. Okay, I suppose you could say that Maguire was expensive, Wan-Bissaka was expensive, but I would still argue that, probably, their values have gone up, or certainly they would do if, coronavirus hadn't hit, and as we expect, the values will kind of come down for a couple of years at least. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you even look at the Igalo one. I've obviously raved about him before. The fact that they needed somebody in January, Ole managed to, and that was a relationship that he got, that he could manage to pull that transfer off, and he's come in and fitted in seamlessly. And now you sort of think about him potentially joining permanently if they can do something there. Dan James was obviously going to be a squad player to begin with, hit the ground running, much exceeded expectations. It had a bit of a plateau, but then Ollie's brought him out of the team, put him back in, and he looks again. I was there in Lask, for the final game before the closure, and he looked sort of in good nick again. Maguire's obviously come in, been a leader. We've seen that with the NHS stuff recently as well, which is important as being on the pitch. And obviously, Wan-Bissaka we've talked about, the tackling machine that he is, and Bruno. We can't. It was said, in September, people around the club were sort of wondering, could you do something in January that would have an impact? Well, he's actually blown that out of the water, hasn't he? And yeah, that's the most exciting thing, I think, waiting to see what he can do in the long term, because so far it's been exemplary.
Get your comments in as well, and I will bang some of them on screen like that. So Jack, he's saying 8 out of 10 just because his squad isn't complete yet. I think in terms of what he has done, though, I think it's pretty good so far. Cowie's saying 7 out of 10. Is this overall? Is this in terms of transfers? Because I would say in transfers, I think it's quite high. Adam, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'd say in terms of transfers, he's done really well, because you can argue that the players that he did bring in have had such a good impact that there's been no one that you've said, has come in and flopped or has come in and not done the job that they were given when they had the contract. I think that Maguire's been brilliant at the back for us. I think Wan-Bissaka's been a revelation at right back, in terms of we've not had a proper right back in years at the moment. Then you bring into the fact the winter transfer window, and he smashed it out of the park. If you'd have said on January the 1st, we're going to come out of it with Igalo as a second backup striker who seems to be scoring a goal every game that he comes off the bench or that he starts in the Europa League, and then you get Bruno, he's doing really well. And I feel that there is a bit of a pulling power now with him. You're looking at Sancho, and there's reports coming out saying that he's kind of buying into this project that Ollie's building. And if you've got players with that pedigree, 150 million pound players who are going to set the world alight in the next few years, if they're not already, then, we must be doing something right, aren't they?
Yes, Guy, the one there. If you take into context that he sold a lot of deadwood and was let down with signings, you'd have to say he's a minimum 8 out of 10. I think both points valid. In terms of he's done really well with the ones that we've got in. They were fairly obvious, but they're still not the easiest thing to just get right. Like people still get obvious transfers wrong. On Maguire, I do like the fact that he's taken up this leadership role on and off the pitch, especially amidst the pandemic. He does seem to be really taking his leadership role to heart, and big up Jordan Henderson as well. I think he had a big part in that. Was it Players Together, Players United, or something, whatever it was that they just put out? The little hashtag and everything that they've just got behind. I do have a question though, because not everyone's getting a bit of fucking praise here. Someone's about to get a barrel full. England captain used to mean something. England captain used to mean like a lot of social responsibility that you had to do, which I don't believe in players being role models, but certain roles, the England one being one of them. Mr. fucking MBE, Mr. Turns up for the fucking awarding of anything. If there was an award to be given out, you better believe Harry Kane would be fucking out there grabbing his hands on it, wouldn't you? So where's he been amidst all this lot? Not seeing him do fuck all unless I'm massively mistaken. Am I right, Roy? Or is he doing something that I'm not seeing?
I think he is. I think he is behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, wasn't he one of the first with Maguire and Henderson to kind of post the Instagram?
If he was, I'll throw my hands. Oh, boy, posted on Instagram. Okay, Lord.
Yeah, I don't know any more than that, other than to say I would imagine that he was, right in the mix for it. But I've got nothing to actually back that up.
Okay, no. Okay, then in terms, so we're pretty happy with transfers. Then Ollie's done all right with the transfers, I would say. Tactically, what are you thinking? What do you reckon he's done?
It's been a bit of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. He seems to be going into big games with a game plan that is, you'd almost say, a bit suicidal. The way that you've been watching United playing big games under Jose was always, you go into a game, the chances are you're not going to win, so you're going to, try and do him on the counter. You're going to try and do something pragmatic. And then under Ole, it seems to be, even though, yes, we've still got the same, levels of possession and all that sort of stuff, it just seems 10 times more direct. I mean, I remember a time when Stamford Bridge, you couldn't get into at all. We weren't getting a point, and now we're coming out with 3 wins at Stamford Bridge, and all these big games are coming up. So I think it's that, but it's just the small games. I feel that I said it on one of the fan cams at the start of the season, that when we pressed a team into a low block, we just couldn't penetrate it. And I felt like it completely ran out of ideas. And it was all based off pace, and it was all based off players' own talent to get to that point where you're in the 18-yard box. But then when you were pressed up in that final third, just ran out of ideas. Bruno come in and he did sort that out, to be fair to him. And it is a shitter that we can't see him continue that same vein of form that he was breaking down the final third. I think all these tactics are evolving. I feel that it's something that he's learning from. It's something that he's getting used to. And it's just something that's just going to take time, unfortunately. It's not, Rome wasn't built in a day. Ollie's not been the manager of Manchester United for long. He's not been a manager of a big club ever. So I feel that he needs to just evolve his tactics. But, as manager of Manchester United, you should really have some form of an idea about how to move forward. And I feel that, like I said before, with Sancho, with this plan that he's got, I feel that he's getting there. It's just going to take a bit of time.
Do you not think there was something in that, though, when he first took over the job on an interim basis? We saw us absolutely levering teams, even the teams that sat back. We found a way, we got through.
Yeah.
And then there was potentially multiple reasons for that fall off in the second half of last season. This season, has it really been the teams that sit back and don't really do that against us? I know that we've dropped points against lesser teams, but it's not really been the same, I don't think. And I wonder how much of this has been down to personnel being available. When you have someone like Bruno comes into the team, he smashes it the way he smashes it, suddenly he makes Ole look better. Maybe Ole was the right man all along and the personnel just weren't good enough.
Just the sum of your parts. I mean, I don't think I'd see Pep Guardiola winning with a team that's got Pereira and Lingard trying to dictate play in the middle. It just doesn't happen. It's as simple as that. You give a manager good players and he'll do it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are Pep Guardiola. If you go down the road and you're Pep Guardiola and you've got to stop Stockport County for a season, the players aren't going to fall into it. But if you give, your Guardiolas and your Klopps of the world good players, and I always hate diverting to them too, but as the gold standard of the Premier League right now, you look at them. If you take certain players out of that system in terms of starting 11, their bench is just as good. you look at Manchester United, and there was a time where Pereira, if he had to come off, it was only Lingard who was going to come on. And you're like, well,
you've
we
seen the
can't do
impact that
anything.
Laporte not being fit for an entire season's had on City's title challenges. Craig's got a comment there. He says, Ollie struggles with tactics and team selection after Europa games. I think we've dropped points in the 9 games after Europa. Is that tactics and team selection, or is that the need to rotate and the inability to successfully rotate because the squad we've got's not deep enough? Laurie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think depth is certainly an issue there because you've got players stepping in that you probably wouldn't want to depend on in the Premier League. I do think though that Ollie's managed to, and I'm criticising for times this season tactically. West Ham away was bad, Newcastle away was bad, Bournemouth away was bad in the energy levels, but also the kind of structure and the fact that he took quite a long time to make his substitutions, which I know is like a habitual criticism of Ole. But I think what he's done throughout the season, as Adam was saying, is that he's got his primary system that he likes with 4-2-3-1, but he's now got the 3 at the back system with, you can either have 2 up front or a front 3, and also now the diamond at Everton, which I think we could see again given the midfield options he's now got, and each of those you can see how they would work with different personnel. So he's obviously aware that he needs to have different ways of playing against different opponents, and also for the players that he's got available. So I would give him credit for that. I suppose it's just those instances that we've seen earlier this season against the other sides that definitely United should be beating, that have kind of let the side down, where he perhaps looked a little bit uncertain as to how to proceed, how to come back in the game at West Ham, how to do the same at Newcastle. I mean, obviously there were chances missed in both those games. It's just that it shouldn't be dependent on 1 or 2. It should be and I do wonder if we'll ever get to a stage of a Liverpool or a City where you can clearly see exactly what they're trying to do all the time. Certainly they are working towards that kind of identity in training, but I would probably also say if you went back to Ferguson's era, could you necessarily say exactly the type of football that was? Obviously it was quick, it was aggressive, it was attacking, but does that actually define a style? I don't know. So I don't think you necessarily have to look at Solskjaer and say, what can you give us an idea of your philosophy? I think winning football ultimately is what he's trying to do, and he's obviously going about it in different ways.
Yeah, I agree on that. I mean, I was having a conversation with someone this morning, actually. I was talking about, I've been doing loads of work lately on preparing Paddock FC's tactical principles of how I expect our shitty little Sunday League team to play. And there's a couple of ways of playing that are extremely noticeable. City's is one, Liverpool's is one. Leicester would probably be another one that you could, I could pretty much tell anyone who's watched football in the last 5 years, go and do that, and they vaguely have an idea of what's being asked. If I said to you, go and play like United's 1997 Champions winning team, and you'd be like, I don't really know what you mean. Oh, okay, play like the 2001 Man United. What the fuck does that? Do you know what I mean? Fergie, his philosophy was win as many fucking games in a season as you could and find a way out to do that. Was the first and second legs against Barcelona in 2008 the same day that we played against Arsenal at the same stage the following season? Absolutely not. Totally different. Entirely different. So I think it's a case of being adaptable enough to be able to find the right key for the right job. And I think Solskjaer's generally doing that. I think it's harder to do in the big games and easier to get it right in the smaller games once you've got it right in the bigger games. And he's getting it right in the bigger games, which gives me confidence that when you've got Pogba, Bruno, Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, Ighalo, everybody fit and available, that he'll select the right tools for the right job to beat fucking Watford if he has to. More often than not. Obviously, you get some fucking black swans, don't you, which just do you out of nowhere. But I think on the whole, he's doing pretty well. Adam, youth.
Yeah, I mean, he can't really be doing any better, really. I mean, there's players that were even on pre-season, like Brandon Williams, who are starting games week in, week out. So he's put a lot of faith into him. Ethan Laird as well got his debut. I think he's done really well, all things considered. And the fact as well, I mean, Greenwood's sort of the exception to that one because he's just up and away one of the best youth players that we've probably had out the development system since probably Rashford. So as far as I'm concerned, Ole's been so good with youth in terms of not just playing them, but knowing when to play them, bringing them off the bench at the right time, putting them in Europa League games and giving them a bit of trust and go out there and do it. I think the only one that goes to not give him a 10 out of 10 is probably the fact that he's not playing Angel Gomez as much as people would like him to. I think he should do. I mean, there's all this stuff about his contract and X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to get into that. But when you got a player like Chong that was also in the same situation, and he was playing week in, week out sometimes, he got to a point where he went, come on, Chong's not... For me, Chong, it doesn't suit the Premier League. I think he's too lightweight at this moment in time. But I think getting away from individuals and focusing on the youth as a whole, there's a spine of a team that's developing there that not only in the youth academy, but in the youth imports that we're getting in. We're being linked with you got even players like Hannibal Medbury as well in well into the youth academy who's involved in, I think, 0.5 goals a game. You know what I mean? These are players that you can see getting a pathway into the side. Mourinho, it was always he's good, but he's probably not going to be starting. He's not going to be coming off the bench. But with under Ole now, I've got hope that more young, local, and just foreign talent can all get in, and it'll be good for the academy. It'll be good for the club. So yeah, it actually excites me for once. Under Jose, I didn't feel any excitement knowing that any of these boys probably aren't going to get in the side, even if they got a 40-goal season.
Going back to something we mentioned earlier about the depth of the squad, Ryan's putting a comment on it and says, Berber didn't make the squad for the Champions League final, and now look at our bench. We have a good 18 when fully fit, but injuries and we are fucked. I mean, yeah, that's massive, that, isn't it? Like the fact that we didn't even put Dimitar Berbatov on the bench.
That was a mistake.
Shows the level. It was a mistake, but it showed the level of talent that we had available to us at times when we were one of the better teams, and that's ultimately where we have to get back to. There's not really many surprises on benches now that you've seen left out of benches. Like, imagine Igalo didn't make the bench now, you'd be like, fucking up, is he injured? Like, why has he not made the bench? Whereas that was just a choice Fergie made week in, week out at a time. That's madness. Laurie, what's your thoughts on the youth? Could he be doing any better, or is it 10 out of 10?
Yeah, I'm echoing Adam, really. I mean, I suppose Angel Gomez is the one that you would have liked to see develop, but I think that's also positive from Ole in a sense that whilst he's brought through youth, he hasn't made it such that if you are a young player, you'll get in. He obviously has, delivered the stick, I think, at times. When you talk about the contract situation, he obviously did that with Chong a little bit, gave a bit of carrot out at different times. But he hasn't made it easy necessarily for these guys. Brandon Williams has only come in because he was consistently good. And obviously when he did have a dip, as you expect from a 19-year-old kid who's playing his first, senior campaign, he took him out of the team and he wasn't afraid to. And obviously Luke Shaw's been, predominantly playing since then. So I don't think he's sort of just been giving out places, like candy, whatever you want to call it, where it's free and easy. It's definitely you have to work it. And Mason Greenwood, you look at his scoring ratio; it's absolutely incredible. But he hasn't been, starting or even coming off the bench in as many games as some other people might have wanted. So he's trying to do it in the right way, I think, which is great. Obviously, he's got a really good link with Nicky Butt and the youth that are coming through, so he knows exactly, who else might be looking at coming into the first team squad. He's had, younger players in with the first team to create that link and kind of give them a bit of a taste of what it might be like to kind of fire the appetite within them. So I like what he's doing, and it looks like a place where younger players would want to come now, and that could be really beneficial for the recruitment side of things at that age group. So yeah, that's one again, sort of like his transfers that I'm fully behind.
Yeah, and I would echo again but fucking hell, can someone not just argue for the sake
Stop
of it?
agreeing.
For fuck's sake. Right. I would say in terms of the youth, yes, I have also seen people criticising the lack of playing time with Gomez. But as someone I just noticed in the comments, Skyjack there says, Gomez hasn't been at any great level for 12 months. I'd say 18 months, actually. I would say it's been a long time since he's been playing regular games back-to-back where he's been impressive in those games. He is too good for under-23 football, but is he good enough to play week in, week out? in the Premier League? To be honest, we don't know the answer because we've never seen him given that opportunity. But I also empathise and understand the reasons why you wouldn't want to just hand out a contract to anyone if you've got the impression that they're just going to leave at the end of the season. Why develop him when you could develop someone else? I agree with what Adam was saying. I don't particularly think Chong is a Manchester United player. I think he's a stopgap, and I'm pretty sure he'll play more games for other teams than he will for Manchester United over the course of his career. But he is a body that you can throw on, and he was someone that got thrown on in Paris. There's obviously some sort of merit to his game which Solskjaer likes. Maybe I'm not seeing it at the moment, but there's obviously something there. And I just want to see other people given that opportunity. I think that Jimmy Garner, Dylan Levitt, Ethan Laird, I think those are players that, looking at what Williams has done, probably well worth us giving a shot as well. And I know some of those have had some injury issues, but isn't there a stat doing the rounds, Laurie, that there's more academy graduates involved in more minutes at United than anywhere else in the country at the moment?
Yeah, you're going to put me on the spot and try and quote it now, aren't you? But I don't know the exact numbers, but definitely that is something that's been floated before, and obviously the fact that in Astana he used that as an opportunity to give a load of kids debuts and give them an experience of travelling away and just that thought process to do that. Clearly he's thinking long term. He's not thinking, for the immediate here and now in every single game when he has that flexibility. I suppose the one criticism you could make, I just thought of it when you were mentioning James Garner there, is that and maybe this is a structural thing at United rather than a Solskjaer specific thing, but could they have gone out on loan? If not, in August, then at least in the winter window. And okay, look at what's happened, with the coronavirus. I guess it wouldn't have been that long a loan anyway. But I just think that some of those players will certainly benefit from, men's football, championship football, and that should be something they can look at next season.
I know teams came in for Ghana.
Yeah.
And there was some suggestion Fleetwood.
Yeah.
I feel were very, very close to getting him in January. So I don't know what happened with that.
Blackpool were close as well, but then Blackpool went and signed a lad from Leicester.
So I know that there was several teams in for Ghana. Levitt, I'm not too sure because he was ill at the time. I don't know what happened with him. But yeah, I think these are lads that are very close. I don't know if anybody came in for Laird, but I know that he's been just struggling with niggling injuries all season. And I hope Laird's career doesn't end up going the way Tuan Zabi's career has gone, where you go, Jesus, you are definitely 100% good enough, but unless you can get out there and prove it, you're going to be a wasted career. Connor Clark in the comments here has got a question. Who do you think will be the next to make a debut? Unfortunately, like Laurie was saying, there's been so many debuts because of the Astana trip. Everyone that would have been knocking on the door as came through it. So you've literally got to go and look at, like Adam was saying earlier, Mabry, probably. Do you reckon Mabry, lads?
Has Deschamps Bernard made his yet?
Yeah, he played in Astana.
Yeah, he started in Astana.
Right, okay. Well, there we go. Like you just said then. Yeah, I'd probably say Mabry.
Yeah, Mabry. Did Mengi play in Astana?
I was just thinking that then. Did he come off the bench? Or did he?
Who played at centre?
I don't think he started. Yeah, I don't think he started.
I can't remember who started in that game. Was it not Axel and Bernard or something?
It was. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it was Axel and Bernard.
Right.
Did he come off? It was Galbraith came off the bench, didn't he?
Galbraith, Raminazi, and Bugalmena.
Right.
God, I butchered that name then. Jesus.
So Mengi could be one.
Mengi's one, yeah. I think Mengi's one with a very high ceiling. I know he's featured at England at a lot of the different age groups, and he's done really well. But the issue United have got is I've seen an article doing the rounds talking about Rashford's class the class of 2016, which did nothing, got absolutely fucking destroyed in the Youth Cup. There's obviously Dean Henderson has come out of that. Scott McTominay's come out of that. Rashford's come out of that, which is a lot to come out of one academy team that are playing regular Premier League football. There's been some brilliant teams that haven't achieved anything at United in recent years. In terms of like the Gomez and Chong team, didn't really do anything. Last season, even with Greenwood, that team, which really should have done something, because that was your Levitt, your Laird, your Garner, your Williams. You had Mengi and Bernard in there. Did fuck all. Didn't do anything. And there's such an opportunity for some of these lads to really make a name for themselves at the moment. You almost wonder, is the timing just wrong because there's so many of you here? Like Levitt and Garner, at any other club, I could see them getting minutes and playing regular. Is it going to work with both of them at United at the same time, or is it just going to be unlucky, do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to Google them, but I remember one game that I always remember watching was the game at White Hart Lane in 15-16, I think it was, or 14-15, I can't remember.
Youth Cup game or the 23s game?
The one where we won the championship at the end of it. I think it was the 23s, yeah.
I was there for that, actually.
And it was, you looked at that team, and I remember seeing them all with like the cup, and you went,
Joel Pereira, Roshan Williams,
Andreas Pereira, Januzaj, I think, was in it. And I think, was he? Or was he at Dortmund then? Because he came back then.
But that would have been like Rothwell, possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Harrop, that lot.
But like, you looked at that side and you went, there's something good going there. And at the time, I don't know what the timeline was with Van Gaal at the time. But with his youth record as well, you was looking at a whole new squad potentially coming in there, coming off the back of a championship. And then you look at the parallels maybe with the class of 92, they come off the back of a cup win and all that sort of stuff. But you're looking at other clubs as well where it's just not worked. Chelsea absolutely dominated youth cup matches. I think they won the FA Youth Cup so many times on the bounce that it was just a given that they were going to win it. And that's with different sides. And it's like you said, then sometimes it can just be right place, wrong time sort of thing. There's players there that are obviously brilliant, but they're just not going to do well there because you've got, if you've got a striker that scored 15 goals in the Youth Cup and it's got you there, brilliant, but you got Diego Costa in front of you, or you got Lukaku in front of you, or at United you've got now Rashford and Martial in front of you. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, like I keep saying, but you need to get that mix, and that's why players like McTominay have done really well, considering that other players haven't, who probably are more talented, just because we've desperately needed that sort of midfielder for a while now. And if you wanted to look elsewhere for a type of player like McTominay, you're looking at 40-50 million. And that's, what you can spend elsewhere if you just got someone in the academy ready built.
Sean Longstaff was supposedly 50 million, and you're like,
no.
Is he even better than Jimmy Garner? I don't even know if he is.
No.
I mean, he's just more experienced. He's got 8 games to his name, or he did have at the time.
Yeah.
You're like, are you even that fucking good? Should we talk about the future? I did have results down to talk about, but I think we sort of covered those a little bit in the tactics. I think with Solskjaer as manager, the stuff that he's been putting into play, the sort of signings that we're making, Igalo aside, our signings here for a long time, you would assume. Sancho looks like the one very close to being a real thing, and he fits the sort of profile of everybody else that we've seen him signing. With that being the case, and that probably being a transfer that is looking to happen, do you feel warm and fuzzy about the future with Solskjaer?
I think that's the feeling you have because of the run that they've been on before the break. So, 11 games unbeaten, the goals, different goal scorers, there's different styles of play. Obviously, there was a few easier results, easier opponents in that run, but then that was the kind of match that would trip United up earlier this season, so you can't dismiss it. And yeah, as I say, I was there for that game against Lask, and it was a really weird atmosphere, but they were so professional, stuck to the jobs, and obviously scored a hatful. So I think that sort of gives you a good indication of where the squad's at and what they're doing now that we're having the break. They're obviously together, committed. You kind of wonder what it might have been like with other players, that Solskjaer inherited in this era. Would that sort of group mentality of kind of carry through amid all this kind of crisis and what have you, given all the discussions that are going on. So I think you do have to be positive. I suppose if you stuck the pin in the map 11 games previously and you had a break now, it would have been disastrous. Really, you could have been thinking all sorts and would Solskjaer have survived really? But I think because you've had this run and you can see those signs, and there were such massive wins. I mean, the City game, that was obviously one of the best atmospheres at Old Trafford that I'd experienced for a long, long time.
The last goal I saw in person. Well, I think the last goal most of us saw in person,
Yeah.
unless you was cheeky enough to sneak in LAFK.
Well, so that's it, and you've got that, and you can't you can't dismiss those as, you know, they do mean more than a win over Watford or whatever, you know, because it is, you know, it's difficult to beat Pep Guardiola anyway, and then, you know, to do it in that atmosphere, and those memories will be, you know, obviously it hasn't built towards anything just yet, so you kind of don't want to cling on to it too much, but I think it still has a resonance as a memory, you know, for a lot of United fans. So I think that's why the feeling around him is positive, and obviously it just depends how they come out of this. I think the overall sort of I guess prediction would be one of a decent gradual incline.
Adam, what are you thinking? Are you excited for the next 5 years? Do you think Ole's going to be here for a majority of that?
Yeah, I do. If you'd asked me that question, like Laurie said, then I think that the last few results sort of couldn't have come at a better time if, in hindsight, we all knew that this was going to happen. Could you imagine if we'd have had a complete footballing break after the Burnley game? Do you know what I mean? It leaves a bit of taste in your mouth, and I'm there going...
That was before the Spurs and City game, was it?
It was the home days before, yeah.
Yes, it was just
a home game.
Because that was as bad as it got this season, I think, anyway. And I remember being in the ground and just going...
That City game and that Tottenham game, prior to that, like, because he was coming into that run and you're going, fucking hell.
Yeah.
I think if we'd have stopped the season right then...
Yeah.
I don't know what everyone would have been, because it's obviously pre-Bruno, pre-Gallo. And Jesus Christ, have you ever seen two signings take to the club as well as them two have done?
Yeah. But that's what gets me excited as well about the future, in that we've just got players that there seems to be players coming in now that make sense tactically with transfers. Remember there was like times where, you know, why did we need players like, well, I know Fred's sort of come out now and he's become the player that we wanted to at the time. But when you had a Happy Herrera at the time, it was kind of like, well, what difference are they? And in that first season, you know, he wasn't that good, let's be honest. And I understand now that Fred's come on a lot. But in terms of, like you said, the future, I didn't think that he'd be here long, because I thought he was here to steady the ship for someone a few years down the line. Not this season. I didn't think Poch was going to come in. I didn't think Poch was going to come in at the end of the season. I think he would have had 3 years just to get a clear vision in. And then this is something that a director of football could have done whilst we had a manager, so to speak, under it to work the tactical side of it. And that's kind of what I was a bit miffed at. But I think as well, even at board level, I mean, the way that they've handled with the NHS at the moment has been brilliant. I seen this morning, TRA just announced youth season tickets in the Red Army section.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is huge.
Massive well done to everybody involved in that. That's awesome.
That's huge. I mean, 16 to 25-year-olds, the whole remit of that area there was to get the youth back in. And I think that even though we're talking about the fans here, it is a bit of a 12th man. And I feel that if you get the results on the picks mixed in with a core young support that are all going to be up for it like it used to be back in the old days, there's a real sense that something's happening at United at the moment. And I think that they're not standing still like we did under Jose. Jose felt like we're going to win a cup this year, and then next year we might win a better cup next year. This is feeling like, even though when we might not win a league title under Ole, or we might not win a Champions League, I get that. I feel that our identity is starting to come back, and I feel that going to the match is becoming more of a enjoyment of like going with your mates again, rather than feeling like a fucking chore watching us struggle 1-0 over the line against fucking Southampton.
It definitely has brought a bit of joy back. It was fucking painful at times. And I think the way the club's handled the pandemic has been quite good as well. They've been flawless in this.
Yeah.
They've come out of this absolutely fantastic, when some of the clubs really have shot themselves in the foot here. United used to be kind of known for being very classy about the way everything that was done, and I think they had just come off that a bit in the last few years. I think some of the Glazer stuff has got to that, and I think that's entirely down to the Glazers. I think the rampant commercialism of the club has taken a little bit of an edge off that at times, and the fact that we've come out and basically said, like, it's not about what we can do on the pitch, we'll still make money. That's taken the shine off it a little bit. And I thought Jose took the shine off it a little bit. I thought Jose was a deviation from being what Manchester United was about. But I don't know if this is part of Ole. I don't know if this is part of the new attitude of the club. I don't know if it's the new direction that everything's going in, but there definitely does feel like there's been a deliberate move to the club feeling like it's doing the right thing more often than not at the moment. And stuff like the Red Army section is one example of that. The announcement today about what they're doing for the NHS was an example of that. I got it wrong the other day when I said, I thought it was within a couple of days of the league being shut down that they announced all the part-time staff would get their money. It wasn't. It was the day of. So on the day of, not even any thinking about it, there was like, don't worry, you're still getting paid.
Yeah,
they've done the right thing time and time again in recent weeks, and we'll pan them, and rightly so, when the Glazers are taking dividends.
Yeah,
definitely. So much money. But when they do the right thing, they deserve to be praised, and I think now's the time to acknowledge that.
Yeah, the bad football owners, I don't think there's any way you can go about that. But I think, like you said, the way they've handled it, you can't have asked more of them. And it feels weird.
Even if
it feels weird giving them praise. Yeah. Like, I feel bad. Like, I'm seeing the comments go up here, and it's like protecting the board, and I'm like, well, yeah, it feels weird in a way, because I fucking hate the Glazers, and I fucking hate Woodward, and I fucking hate the board and whatnot. But like you said, what more could they have done, really? They've held their hands up here, and they've done the right human thing in this situation. You can't praise them.
It almost feels like it was very straightforward to do the right thing, but it almost at the same time feels like it would have been very easy to fuck this up when Liverpool. It was just a case of do the right thing. And it isn't just Liverpool. Obviously, it's easy to poke fun at them. But Tottenham fucked it up. Newcastle have fucked it up. There's other clubs that have fucked it up in the grand scheme of what's going on here as well. So let's not let them get away with it. But I think United have handled this very well, and I think United have handled their staff and the community quite well in this. Whereas in recent years, it honestly felt like the local community to Manchester United didn't matter to Manchester United. And Ryan in the comments saying, let's have it right, we still want the Glazers out. Fucking of course we do. That's not without saying, but at least you can say, the club has handled this fucking horrific crisis quite well. Anything on that, Laurie?
Yeah, just to echo, really. I mean, I think I'd probably draw out the fact that they've obviously encouraged those staff that haven't actually got work to do, really, because you can't, if you're a masseuse or if you're I'm trying to think what other jobs you'd obviously, there's loads of jobs at a football match or a football club that you'd have to go in to do. You can't do everything from home, but they've encouraged those guys to go and volunteer with the NHS to help out with the food bank situation, and I just think that's what you want from a football club. A football club should be attached to the community, should be doing things that enhance people's lives. And clearly they've taken this as an opportunity to do so. It'd be great, if that continues. Obviously they do stuff in the community, but it'd be great if that continues, once this is all passed, in a really clear and evident way. I think, as you said, I think they've handled it really well. And you look at the way that Spurs have gone about it, that has created a lot of ill will at the club, and you wonder what that might do with the playing side of things as well. Liverpool obviously were shamed into doing a reversal pretty quickly, but I don't know what
they're trying to fucking claim the moral high ground on that.
Well, listen, I suppose you can say, well done, you listened to us, you changed your mind. I suppose it doesn't hide the fact that the instinct was to take the government's money. However much you might say, listen, we need it for our business. You can, BA, McDonald's, who else? Loads of conglomerates have taken furloughing. So I don't think football should be alone in the criticism received if we feel like they have overreached by taking it. But then where do you draw the line? I mean, should there be some kind of limit for how much profit you have made in the past year, or how much cash you have in the bank before you can take the government's money? Maybe that's one way of kind of offsetting it. But then BA might say, well, listen, we literally can't fly the aeroplanes. We do need this help, for the cash flow situation. So I can see it from both ways. But from a football point of view, the optic is always bad when you then, might go and spend. Imagine Liverpool in the transfer market now trying to spend 70-80 million pounds. Well, you were trying to get government funding, 2 or 3 months ago. So whereas United, for me, I don't think this was the factor in them doing it. They obviously wanted to do the right thing, but clearly they are free. They're liberated from that predicament now. So So yeah,
you've got first team players on several 100,000 per week, and a few of them on that, and you're furloughing your marketing department, who are lads probably on like 18, 20 grand a year, something like that. It just doesn't sit right. And then if you did, I mean, Spurs might be different because I think that there was news coming out a few months ago that they're probably not going to have much budget in the summer. So they might be in a different situation. But if they'd have then gone and bought a £75 million centre forward, you'd have been like, all right, are we taking the fucking piss here or what? Because, there is only one pot. And ultimately, if everyone just fucking sticks the grubby little paws in it, then we've got problems, aren't we? If you can carry on. We've carried on. We've still got lads' salaries to pay and stuff like that, and it's going to be fucking really tight to do it. But I've partially done it for everyone's sanity. What would all us lot be doing now? It gives us a release to sit here and talk to people, but it gives you a lot of release to sit here and watch it, doesn't it, as well? So it is what it is, I think. I'd rather keep working if at all possible, because I don't want to take money away from buying fucking medical aid and equipment for people that might need it. Laurie said he did an interview with Michael Sylvester this week.
Yeah. Oh, cheers for flagging me up there, Steve. I thought I'd missed my opportunity to plug it. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, go and have a listen. It's free, the podcast. It's the Athletic Podcast, Talk of the Devils. So, it's free if you want to listen to it, but there will be ads, but then you can subscribe, etc., and it's ad free. So obviously it costs money to subscribe, but you can get a free trial. Yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. He he played for the club for years, 9 years, 360 odd games, like 16th most appearances.
The treble, 99 he signed.
Yeah. So he played against United in the treble season for Inter in the 1-1 in San Siro. And I mean, just some of the stories he had. I mean, he's currently working as an agent, so I thought maybe that would inhibit what he would say, but actually he just told it how it was. He gave us some juicy stuff on Keane v Vieira in the tunnel. I mean, I know all these stories are out there, but he kind of just added an extra layer of it, and the way he told it was just great to listen to anyway. He told us about the hairdryer he got from Fergie in the Southampton game shortly after he joined. He said he went on some kind of dribble, lost the ball, Southampton equalised, and Fergie was right up in his face saying, if you do that again, you can fuck back off to France. He wasn't quite sure exactly what he said, but he thought that was what it was. Obviously, his English wasn't great, and Fergie's Scottish accent was a little bit difficult to understand. But he had loads. I know he's played with so many players. I mean, obviously for France, we've got another feature coming out, which will be on the website shortly, which is his perfect player. So we asked him, who's your best right foot, who's the best left-footed player, who's the best aerial that you played with. So for right foot, I'll just give you a little teaser. He was like, well, Beck's over Zidane. And it's like, well, wow, you've got two incredible players there that you played with. So yeah, he had loads of really good stories anyway. So have a listen to it if you're at home and you fancy half an hour of a bit of reminiscing.
Fuck off. Laurie, what are you talking about if you're at home? Fucking go listen to it. Fucking, if you're not busy,
you might be walking to the shops or doing your one daily piece of exercise.
My bollocks.
Exercise your bollocks.
Anyway, I've got a date booked in with the lads to have a beer over Skype with them. Feels all sorts of weird this, but
it's good. No, it's done. I've done that. It's decent. You get a little quiz going.
We got a quiz on my channel, the Rundown.
Yeah,
you might be able to see behind us.
Yeah.
Let me see my new one.
The skull.
Why is rum bottles so over the top? You know what I mean? Like what have you got with vodka? You got like Crystal, and then that's it.
The more your mind falls out your asshole, I think.
Yeah, so
stopping it.
There's a correlation.
Right in. Cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to Stretford Paddock. Hit the join button below and see what we're offering in terms of membership, because there's all sorts of stuff. And there's a big fat fancy tier in there that you're going to go, fuck me, Steve, what do we get for that? Well, I'll tell you what you get for that. You get a little box of loot sent out to you every single month. And we're going to be putting in the Stretford Paddock away kit, which is mint, by the way, and it's black and gold. The first people in the world that are going to get it are the members. We're literally just going to send it you as your gift for the month. And that's going to be a month before we put it on sale to the general unwashed public. So if you fancy that, even though you don't know what it looks like yet, just trust me, it's fucking belting. I'm literally not allowed to show you a photograph of it yet because Umbro don't release the stuff until May. So you can't even see it until May, and I'm not even sure I can put it on for sale until July, but I can send it you in June for free. So if you fancy that, that's what I'm going to be doing. So go check that out below. Go and check out Laurie's podcast. Make sure to subscribe. And we are back. Listen, it's pretty much every day, right? There's news in the morning, and then there's a podcast in the afternoon. What more do you want to find out what's going on with United? It's simple, isn't it? Right. Cheers for tuning in. I'll see you crazy cats in the next one. Laters.